Just how precious is our water? Without it, life would not exist. It's not surprising that Riverside's founders settled near water sources for drinking and to grow crops. During the 1870s, the time of Riverside's settlement, water was the key commodity for growth, and water rights were privately owned by landowners. By 1879, legislation was put into place for proposed water interests to be regulated by city and county governments. Riverside officially became a city in 1883, and by 1895 was one of the wealthiest cities per capita because of the successful citrus growing industry. This was all due to a plentiful water supply. Voters approved to purchase the domestic water service from a privately held Riverside Water Company in 1913 to officially form the Riverside Municipal Light and Water Company. With the visionary spirit of our city's founding fathers, we have continued to find new ways to maintain our water independence. This video, explained by Riverside Public Utilities geologist Greg Herzog, explains Riverside's water source to tap.
I'm a utility senior resource analyst, and my job is primarily to look after the city's water interests and water rights. And so anything to do with water, I'm there. I monitor the groundwater basin. We'll check for water levels to see how our wells are doing. We also look at water quality. But at the end of the day, we're interested in protecting our water supply, and our water supply starts here at the base of the San Bernardino Mountains. We're in Highland below the Seven Oaks Dam, and we're at the base of the dam, and they're releasing water right now that is going to be navigated to basins to recharge our groundwater in San Bernardino. The dam was completed in 1998. Yeah, so Riverside has an adjudicated right in the Bunker Hill Basin, which is the groundwater basin underlying San Bernardino. And Riverside owns a certain percentage of water. And so we pay a pump tax to San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District, and in turn, they operate facilities to get as much water in the ground as possible that ultimately Riverside pumps back out to serve to our customers. Currently, the water is brown because of the recent fires over the last few years, and this year's been a very wet year, so it's kicked up a lot of sediment that's come down with the water. Yeah, so going back to the early 1900s, Riverside was again part of the San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District, and we paid through a pump tax. And what that district would do is they would divert the water coming out of the Santa Ana River to the recharge basins. However, when the dam was built, it enabled additional water supplies to be stored behind it. And so Riverside worked with Western Municipal Water District and San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, and we actually went to Sacramento to increase our water rights. And so we got up to 200,000 acre-feet of water from this dam. So this dam, not only does it work with Orange County Water District in tandem with Prado, and so it alleviates, or it works for flood control purposes, but it also works for water conservation.
The 550-foot-high Seven Oaks Dam is 3,000 feet wide and was built to withstand an earthquake of a magnitude over 8. Completed in 1998, it offers 350-year flood protection at the site and also works to ensure a 100-year flood stays in the Santa Ana River channel between Seven Oaks and Prado dams. Years of litigation determine how much water each agency may take from the dam.
So we're below the dam at what is known as the Cuttle Weir. The weir was originally constructed at the turn of the century in the 1900s. And since that time, San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District has added improvements and different valves to operate the water into. What they do is the Conservation District will operate valves and send water to different water agencies, and then whatever's left over, they put it in recharge basins below this area. A weir is a structure that impedes water flow, and it usually has a cutout in it, and you could operate this cutout to identify how much water is flowing past it, and you could control the water. And the Cuttle Weir is named originally after Francis Cuttle, who was the president of the Riverside Water Company back in the late 1800s, which the city of Riverside ultimately took over. So there's some really old water rights associated with this water, the oldest being Bear Valley Mutual Water Company. So they, I believe, are the first in line to get water, followed by a few other mutual water companies. Then after that, it goes to Conservation District to recharge. And then after that, or kind of in conjunction with that, there's also an additional Santa Ana River water right that San Bernardino Valley and Western, also Riverside, got when the dam was built. They send water to the mutuals first, and then they put as much in the ground, and then after the fact, once they've done all the accounting, they kind of divvy up what bucket to put the water in.
These original diversion gates, made of heavy metals, were constructed in the early 1900s. They are extremely heavy and take a lot of physical strength to manually operate. Over the decades, these gates have weathered many storms, so the seals are no longer 100% watertight. The new diversion gates are made of modern materials which are machined precisely to be watertight when closed and are computer operated, no longer requiring physical manpower.
We're still pretty close to the dam. We're just below the dam, just a couple hundred feet from the last facility being the Cuttle Weir. So this is an investment that the City of Riverside paid about 22% towards, and we partnered with San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District on this. And so this facility is intended to move a lot more water through here to get a lot more water into the ground. This facility was designed by San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, and the purpose of those holes is to slow the water down so that it'll flow into this sediment basin, which is just behind the wall.
As rainwater and snowmelt runs off the mountains, it picks up large amounts of dirt, rocks, ash from wildfires, and other sediments. During the building of this new conveyance channel, engineers from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District were faced with the challenge of slowing the flow of water from the dam to allow the sediment to settle out of the water before reaching the settling ponds. This wall, dubbed the Swiss cheese wall, is how they solved this problem. The holes in the cement wall slow the flow of water, allowing sediment to settle out of the water, which will aid in the percolation process once the water reaches the percolation ponds.
Yeah, so we're about a half mile below the Seven Oaks Dam at another San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District diversion structure. And so just above, we were at the Cuttle Weir. This is another structure below the Cuttle Weir, and it could divert water. It's kind of the first in a series of other diversions, and it'll direct water into one location or to another location. And those locations are where the recharge basins are located at.
On most days, unless there has been significant rainfall, these picturesque conveyance channels remain dry. This is why Riverside residents rely on the groundwater in our area. Geologists study the properties and distribution of natural underground water reservoirs, their water storage capacity, and the role of fault lines in groundwater distribution.
So right behind me is the famous San Andreas Fault. It is right at the base of these foothills, and it continues all the way down to the Cajon Pass, where it then meets up with the San Jacinto Fault. So between the San Andreas Fault and the San Jacinto Fault is where the Bunker Hill groundwater basin is located, which is where Riverside gets about 60 to 70% of its groundwater supplies. So number one, right at the base of the San Bernardino Mountains is the San Andreas Fault, and so essentially you had mountain lifting going up, and as the San Bernardino Mountains were being lifted up by the fault, you had erosion coming off of the hills, coming into the Santa Ana River Valley, forming what would ultimately become the groundwater aquifer. Now at the far end of the basin where the San Jacinto Fault's located at, because you've had quite a bit of movement along that fault, it's formed a clay layer, and so that clay actually impedes water movement. So the water gets backed up behind the San Jacinto Fault, forming or residing in the groundwater basin. Riverside got most of its water originally in the late 1800s, and it was from artesian wells, and it was artesian because the water was backed up behind the fault, and there's also a clay cap through a portion of the basin. And so when you stuck a straw right through the clay cap, water would come shooting up out of the ground because it was under tons of pressure. Yeah, so it's a little complicated now. You know, back a long time ago, there weren't as many houses, and it was easier. You could just put a well in. Since the last 100 years, we've had a much better understanding of the faults in the area, so we stay away from faults. We also stay away from groundwater contaminants. There are some contaminant issues in this area, which ultimately gets treated. So sometimes we'll site a replacement well that's intended to capture that plume, and then it then goes to treatment. And some of our other wells, we try to stay far away from that plume. So water quality goes into it, and then just having a good area. We're fortunate in the sense that we have about 30 or so wells in this area. So we have a lot of data to look at when we're trying to identify where our next well is going to go.
These settling ponds were designed and built by engineers to speed up the percolation process, allowing the aquifers to recharge more efficiently. Our geologist consults with engineers to ensure the use of soils with the highest infiltration rates. The expertise of the geologist in managing the groundwater supply is crucial to securing current as well as future water needs. All of Riverside's drinking water comes from aquifers in the Bunker Hill groundwater basin. Data collection and tracking are integral parts of ensuring groundwater supplies. Riverside Public Utilities owns and operates 56 wells, although not every well necessarily runs every day. Greg spends time each month visiting wells, collecting and recording data. After unlocking a secured monitoring well, a water sensor is used to measure the distance before hitting water. An alarm will alert when the sensor touches water, indicating how far down the water level is. While monitoring wells stay securely locked to prevent unauthorized access, the safety measures employed to protect those wells are basic compared to the tight security on a production well. This production well, named Thorn Well Number 12, is caged with heavy-duty fencing and locked. Inside the locked compound, the well pumps water from the ground, sending it through pipeworks, then on to treatment facilities. Because a production well is drawing drinking water from the ground, the utility takes drastic precautions to protect all production wells from any possibility of unauthorized tampering. After routine inspections or data collection, we make sure the alarm is reset and all gates are locked. From this well, the water will journey a few miles to the first treatment facility, which is also heavily secured. Water is pumped into the tanks, treated, and then pumped through other treatment processes before it is sent on to water storage reservoirs. Throughout its long history, Riverside Public Utilities has continued to invest in updating old facilities and building new infrastructure to provide water to thousands of Riverside residents now and into the future. Because of this, Riverside has not had to purchase and import water since 2008. Geologist Greg Herzog is a part of the team of engineers, hydrologists, water quality testers, and hundreds of other professionals who work daily making sure Riverside offers their customers the highest quality water at the most affordable rates to benefit the community.